Well, good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to another of our Managing Your Small Business Beyond the Pandemic webinar. This is number 129, going back to March of 2020, here live every single Wednesday, providing you the latest information on moving your business beyond the pandemic, recovery, all the pressing issues that small businesses are facing right now, a lot of the other things that are coming up. We're here to help. So that brings us to the last day of August 31st, 2022. And a lot to discuss today. So Economic Corner today, Economic Corner has jobs in the forefront. We have a great guest speaker planned for you for today. And we have also an outstanding jobs report that came back. So a lot to talk about on the jobs front. We will focus our Economic Corner not on inflation, not on recession, not on supply chains issues, not on all the other interest rates and trade balances, all the other economic issues. It's going to be on the jobs front today. So last week I told you I would give you my observation on the hospitality industry. I'm giving it to you a week later. So kind of skipped over that in all the great economic news last week. So I will give you not only my observation, but a little thing that we call here customer development. And customer development is kind of the 2022 version of market research, or actually it's been around most of this century. But customer development is really kind of a process to where you interview your customers rather than research a particular market. And I think it's really one of the single greatest changes in how small businesses view their opportunity in their market. Customer development allows you to go out and actually contact your customers and get feedback from them. You're not doing market research on information that is 6 months, a year, 2, or even maybe 3 years old. You're talking to your customers who are going to buy your particular product or service, who are going to support you, who are going to be there for you. You're talking to your business customers to get the information that you need. So I did that. Over the last few weeks, and I got out there and I talked to a number of our clients, most of them focusing in the hospitality industry. And I will have that report for you in just a few moments. And here comes FAST Act. Is somebody trying to pull a FAST Act on us? Can you come up with a better act that is going to gradually increase or tremendously increase wages for fast food restaurants, which, of course, what I will say does not increase them for fast food restaurants, includes them for all restaurants. The unintended consequences, or maybe the intended consequences of the FAST Act, AB 257, which can raise fast food wages to $22 an hour, has been approved by the California Assembly and the Senate and is on the governor's desk waiting for either his signature or veto. We'll talk about AB 257 and talk about its effect on small businesses. And it is a political issue. And I'm not a political person, but I will advocate for small businesses. And from what I heard from my customers over the last 3 weeks, and then with this legislation, you're going to hear a lot about it from me today. So advocating for our small businesses is a job that I do not take lightly. And I'm proud of the fact that I stand up and stand for you small business owners out there. We're going to provide an update on our remaining programs, and we're even adding one from the state of California that will benefit many of our small businesses. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We'll talk about our capital quarter. We'll look at the small business factoring aspect, kind of an interesting angle of how small businesses can obtain capital for their businesses. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly on small business factoring. Retailers, restaurants, many others continue to struggle. We're seeing a lot of that in the news today with some of your retailers. Talked a little bit about that last week, but we're really hearing a lot from our restaurants who are continuing to have a difficult time. We'll look at the Dream Fund. It continues to move on, and we're looking for even more applicants for the Central California SBDC Region Dream Fund program. So the Dream Fund looks great and got potentially funding available to continue throughout this year, hopefully. Not guaranteed, but hopefully. And as always, we will seek your questions. And also, hey, how about a poll? Okay, since poll today, I'll preface our poll today. Our poll today is going to be set up kind of on the lines of, well, it's going to be set up on the lines of the job market out there. So during many of these 129 episodes of Webinar Wednesday, we've talked about the National Federation of Independent Business and the research that they do on fine business. We've used a lot of their same poll questions to gauge locally in our Central California region if what small businesses are experiencing nationwide, we're experiencing here in our Central California region. The NFIB, their sweet spot of their business owners that join that particular organization, and this is not a plug for you to join it, is 1 to 20 employees. So generally, a tremendous amount, I don't remember the exact percentage of their membership, has between 1 and 20 employees. So setting that up for you today, let's start with our first question, launch our first of 2 questions on jobs. And it says, according to the NFIB, what percentage of small business owners are having problems filling current job openings? Is that 24%, 49%, or 80%? So what we're looking for today is we are looking for the actual percentage that are having problems filling existing job openings. These could be vacant positions from people that leave. Most of them I would think are. So what is that percentage? Is it 24%? Is it 49%? Or is it 80%? So we have about 55% of you that are participating to our first of 2 poll questions on, according to the National Federation of Independent Business, what percentage of business owners are having problems filling open job positions? Okay, we'll give you one last second to jump in at 24%, 49%, or 80%. And we are going to close this poll. We're going to end the poll right now, and we will share the results with you. And there you go. You nailed it, 49%, 52% of you with the correct response. About half of small businesses are having problems nationwide, according to the NFIB, in filling open job positions. 29% of you thought 80%. That must be my love of the 80-20 rule. I love that rule, but not true in this case, only 49% and 19% of you with the 24%. So thank you for participating in that poll. We did end up with 60% of you, so that's great. So let's go to our second related poll question, also on hiring. And this is related to new positions. I think that last one, the NFIB surveyed kind of job openings. This is different. This is how many businesses are going to want to create new positions and grow their business within the next 3 months. So that is the question. How many businesses, what is the percentage wanted to create new positions in the next 3 months? Is it 0? Is it 12%? Or is it 20%? Or is it 80%? Sorry, had that one covered up. So 0, 12, 20%, or 80%. Gee, my love for the 80-20 rule knows no bounds, does it? Okay, we do have 58% of you that are in right now. And again, how many are looking to create new positions? How many small businesses, most of these between 1 and 20 employees, are looking to create new small business positions in the next 3 months? 0, 12%, 20%, or 80%? And with 63% of you in, thank you for participating. We're going to end the poll and share the results with you. And 43% of you say 12%, a good answer, but not the correct answer. The correct answer is 20%. 1 in 5 small businesses are looking to add new positions in the next 3 months. That surprised me. 39% of you, it did not surprise though, and selected 20%. We had 9% with both 0 and 80%. So we did have about 80% of you in the 12 to 20% on that. So 20% of those surveyed wanted to create a new position in their organization within 3 months. So thank you. That will help us along the line and help us get to a point to hopefully we can use that later on in with our guest speaker. So I think I jumped a slide here. So what's new? Few things are new. We do have now the California Paid Family Leave Act or Leave Program. And this is going to be open, and it's our first look at this particular grant for small business, and we'll look at that in a few moments. So the California Family Leave Act, the Paid Family Leave Act, which is actually a grant for small businesses. You might recall during the pandemic, there was a leave program that was available for employees of small businesses, but this one will, I believe, work with both entities, both the small business and the actual employee. The California Dream Fund. Again, if you are interested in this program, email your interest to sbdc@csub.edu. And we will get back with you and get you hooked up with that particular program. We'll talk about it a little bit later too. The California Micro Grant Program here in Kern County is open. You have time. The program is open until November, and there is money available. So if you know somebody, $2,500 or less, or excuse me, $50,000 less in sales for $2,500, feel free to jump in. So the California Performing Arts Grant is open, and that is a program that is open, first come, first serve. It's a program that is being administered by Lindustry.com. The Mono County Grant and Forgivable Loan Program. Last time we had talked with one of the Jeffs in Mono County. The program was kind of backed up a little bit, but there still is program funds available in Mono County for their grant and forgivable loan program. The Employee Retention Credit remains open. It remains open retroactively as it closed on 9/30/2021. It was open essentially for 4 quarters. The fourth quarter of December 2020 ending December 21st, and then quarters 1, 2, and 3 in 2021. If you are able to go back, you can file an amended payroll tax return. The 941 form is used, 941X being the amended version. You'll want to contact your payroll service or your accountant. Find out how much they're going to charge you before you get into it, though. EIDL loans. Deferrals are ending for some. For some of those that received EIDL early on in the process, your deferral is ending and you will now be making monthly payments. Remember, the COVID-19 EIDL program was not a forgivable grant program. It was a loan program, and great terms, 3.75% for 30 years, but the payments will be starting soon. And also the State Small Business Credit Initiative, a program that we've talked an increasingly large amount of, we spent a large amount of time on it this year. We're hoping that it gets started sometime, maybe even as early as later part of September. And we will talk about the programs that it has and many other factors that come with it. So let's start with the California Paid Family Leave Act program. And this program was funded by the California Employment Training Panel and also the California Labor Workforce Development Agency. So these two entities in California came together and they're funding this program that is helping small businesses, helping you offset costs that might arrive when an employee is out. Small businesses oftentimes have issues when people are out. This allows you to cross-train existing staff, potentially hire or train new or temporary employees while somebody is out. And somebody could be out, and this provides eligible employees with up to 8 weeks of wage replacement benefits as side of the employee side. So the employer is going to get a grant between either $1,000 or $2,000 per employee. The nice thing about this is it's skewed towards small businesses. 1 to 50 employees receive a $2,000 grant, or larger employers that have 51 or more employees up to 100 receive 1,000 per employee. So again, it's only limited to those that have 1 to 100 employees, and the larger grant amount will go to those with the smaller employee base. So some other things with this particular program is that you have to be doing business in the state of California. You need to be in active status with the Office of the California Secretary of State. Now, I did not research this statement, and when I read it, it caused me some questions, and we will get on these questions before next week's version of Webinar Wednesday. But generally, if you're a sole proprietorship, you don't need to file anything with the California Secretary of State. If anybody thinks differently than that, throw it in the chat. I'm open for discussion on that. But generally, if you are filing an LLC, a limited partnership, a corporation, all those things, all those other entities, rather than being an individual in business, go through the office, the California Secretary of State's office. So being in active status, I don't know if there is an active status that is available for sole proprietors, but I will figure that out before next week. So that one kind of threw me for a loop, and we'll check on that for you. I cannot believe a program that would have of this magnitude not be available to self-employed or, those that actually employ people that are small businesses that are sole proprietors. So in addition, this makes total sense. You will need an active California employer account number, of which you would be remitting taxes through the state of California. You would be remitting your California payroll taxes with that number. So that makes totally perfect sense right there. And those California taxes that you would be remitting would be California withholding tax, income tax that is withheld from your employees. Also, their portion of the state disability tax, which is deducted from their paycheck, and then also taxes that are borne by the employer, and those would be unemployment and other related taxes. So there you go. If you want more information, I think Maureen will be placing the CaliforniaPFL.com link that will be in our chat box. So that will be in chat. So CaliforniaPFL.com for more information. The grant period did open on June 1st, 2022, and is available until May 31st, 24, or until funds run out. So a pretty good program. And so moving along, here comes the FAST Act. So first of all, during the introduction, I said I was going to share some of my customer development, my traveling throughout the Central California region, throughout our 3 counties, and trying to find out and talk with small businesses, clients, and other businesses that would talk to me. Obviously, our clients talk to us a little bit better, but I'm always curious when I travel, and that is always trying to find out what are the issues that small businesses are facing. So lodging-wise, lodging took a terrible hit through COVID and seems to be recovering nicely. I did have 1 or 2, actually one formally, one informally, talk to me about how business was going. I kind of gauged the unavailability of my state of California rate, and also some other factors as being business was good in a number of the properties that I stayed at. So I think on the hospitality side of things for lodging seems to be bouncing back nicely. Plus, you will notice that you are now getting the option in many places to actually defer having housekeeping in your room. Maybe that was kind of a hangover from COVID-19, but maybe lodging is being able to recapture some of the costs that they would have normally incurred from people wanting less interaction with hotel staff. Hotels are also doing things that are kind of interesting. They're starting to charge fees for things that we thought were normally not ever going to be charged, such as use of a pool or a hot tub facility on the property. There are other things as well. But so lodging in my hospitality trip, my lodging side of things, which a much smaller sample size and observations from being on the road appear to be bouncing back better than our food businesses. So with restaurants and taquerias and mobile food vendors and others that I have talked with in the last 3 to 4 weeks, I get kind of a different impression. The same thing is mostly the consensus of these individuals. If I was to draw a single consensus from the food industry right now, is businesses are trying to hang on. Inflation has ravaged so many different areas. They have ravaged, it seems to be a rolling cycle. I heard this comment twice, is that it seems like suppliers are taking their turn wanting to gouge individual restaurants. Now, I don't know if gouge is the right way, but they seem to think that they were taking advantage of shortages or perceived shortages in the supply chain. They mentioned a number of different supplies that they buy that skyrocketed, including some of the food costs, initially meats and eggs and other things, to packaging and a lot of other things. It seems like everybody wants to take their turn on recapturing their bad part of the economy, as one small business owner told me. So restaurants are struggling. And the common thing I also heard was it's impossible for them to raise prices enough for them to make money these days. They want to hang on. So many of them that I talk to want to hang on. They want to hang on to the break-even process until things get better, till inflation gets a little bit better under control. So many of them told me that they can't raise their prices enough because customers won't come back. So on the heels of that, and hearing a lot of that on my trip, over the weekend, the state legislature passed their second of the FAST Act, which creates a 10-member fast food council with equal number of employees, delegates, representatives, along with 2 state officials empowered to set minimum standards for wages, hours, working conditions in California. So they will not be subject to the minimum wage, which is anticipated to be soon $15.50 an hour. They will have this other committee that will actually set these wages. So if you have a chain of 100 restaurants, for example, your minimum wage could go up to $22 an hour. Now, if you were along for Webinar Wednesday in 2020, oftentimes we would show you pictures of a McDonald's saying, now hiring $22. I remember the famous photo we used from Moab, Utah, when Moab was very popular, like a lot of destinations in rural areas during the height of the pandemic in 2020. And so you see this sign, $20 and Utah's minimum wage is not as high as California. So it seemed like the market was taking care of the particular shortages that they had. My problem as an advocate for small businesses with this FAST Act is that what it's going to do is it's going to increase labor cost and labor turnover at every restaurant, not only fast food restaurants. So whereas nobody mentioned that somebody was going to pull a fast one on them when I talked to them last week, the week before, or even 3 weeks ago, now this would even throw another layer of problems that small businesses in the hospitality industry are facing. And at $22 an hour, if you have a restaurant to where you have your minimum waged employees, your new employees, you have a line chef, maybe a prep chef that has been with you for 5 years that is making $19 an hour, all of a sudden they could go to one of these chain restaurants and receive $22 per hour, which is a substantial amount of money. That's $500 a week. And so this just is going to look like more problems facing our restaurants here in California. And being an advocate of many small businesses, this is the industry that seems to be really in peril. We did have some funding for restaurants, federal funding that only went out to about 33% of the ones that applied. Obviously, we had the PPP and EIDLs that are helping some businesses hang on and continue to do so as they get through this crisis. But really, with costs the way they are for restaurants, the ones that I have talked to cannot pass them along. And now here comes another level of losing employees and paying a higher amount. So I just do this to bring this to your attention. The FAST Act, I'm sure it does some wonderful things for employees and some of the other things, and brings up those issues. But I work with a lot of restaurants, and so the only thing I can see, if you want any recourse in this, would be to contact potentially your actual governor of the state of California, if it goes to his bill, if you want to participate in the dialogue one way or another. So that's the FAST Act that was passed, I believe, on Monday. So moving along from my observations with restaurants over the last 3 to 4 weeks, and then the new change that came up this week, we did talk about the California Micro Grant Program. And again, this is $2,500 for eligible businesses, sales of under 50,000. There are a number of conditions that do apply to this. So please do actually look at all of the eligibility questions. It is a one-page application, but it is double-sided, of course. So you can have that. You have to have a limited number of employees, and you cannot have received the California Relief Grant from the industry. So other conditions do apply. So also, there's a new updated application that was recently released. We're actually encouraging people to go back and to do the new application that might have had their application in a pending stage. So if you had some issues with not supplying all the information needed, it would be best to update your application at this time. The new changes relax some of the packaging requirements. At the SBDC, we try to get you to help you with getting that smallest micro business funding for this particular program. And hopefully you'll talk to one of our consultants and look at the big picture about growing your particular small business. Talked about the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Grant. And the purpose of the California Nonprofit Performing Arts Program is to provide grants to eligible nonprofits, performing arts organizations, to encourage workforce development. Again, about $50 million. Goes back to, since this is a COVID relief grant program, goes back to your gross revenue in 2019. Again, nonprofits is in the title. It is for payroll related costs and expenses, hence the subject of that today. So the California Dream Fund actually is a program going on throughout the Central California network that I just showed you earlier. With basically $800,000, with most of that, almost all of that, going out to small business grants to fund at the tune of $5,000 to $10,000. You need to complete a training program. You need to complete a business plan and have technical assistance. And then your application goes to, once again, lindustry.com. So entry into the training does not guarantee funding. You could probably get a good idea at the time that you start the program if there's going to be funding left for you. My understanding is right now there is funding available, even for new applicants coming into the program, but you will want to check that. If you send us an email at, again, sbdc@csub.edu, we can get you in touch with that, with those application process to get you in a training class for more information. Okay. Let's move on to our capital quarter. Have a little bit, I'm running long, and actually I do not see that our guest speaker has got here yet. I hope everything is okay with her. I hope everything's fine with Teresa. I'm a little bit worried, but she has not got here yet. So there is a good chance we will do the rest of the webinar without her. For those of you that were waiting for Teresa to get here, and ready for me to introduce her, I know I have been for a few minutes. We will continue to complete this webinar, and what we will try to do is see where we had the disconnect, and hopefully everything's okay with her. Know Teresa well, so I am really, really worried, and hopefully we can actually maybe even do an on-demand and send it out to you if it wasn't something really kind of important. So anyway, that's kind of an update on where we are on number 29. 129 is right now, it doesn't look like we're going to have Teresa. I will finish with our Capital Corner, and I will get into the jobs thing. Begin on the Kern Annual Mono Workforce Development Board. I know a lot of the programs, and there's one I want to specifically talk about, and that is the On the Jobs Training Program. That doesn't go to a lot, but let's hit this real quick. We do have our Eastern Sierra Capital Summit coming up in Bishop, and on October the 7th, and again in the winter. It's coming actually to Bakersfield, which we do on an annual basis as well. So coming up, we'll have a little bit more information, but hold those dates. Also, the Bishop one will be both, it will be geared toward Eastern Sierra businesses, but we'll have kind of about a 90% crossover to all of Kern County as well. So there will be a virtual option there to where you can participate in that conference virtually or in person at Sierra Coso College on October the 7th. One of the Capital Corner items we wanted to talk a little bit about today was factoring. And factoring is basically accounts receivable financing. So if you're a business that has credit sales, this is something that you can actually use. So how it works is you provide your goods and service in a normal way. You invoice your customers for those goods or services provided. So you actually have that physical invoice and have completed, not only provide, but you have completed those goods and services and are able to actually invoice. So anyway, then what you do is you move on and you basically will sell that piece of paper. You will sell the invoice that you have to a factoring company that will provide you the bulk of those funds immediately, and typically up to 89 to 90% of the value after verifying that the invoices are valid. So really, they're not checking on the credit worthiness of you. They're checking on the credit worthiness on who is actually being invoiced. So, you know, I have had clients that really don't have very good, they have horrible credit, and they've been able to access this program. Now, that's the good on the program, you know, because when your customer pays, they will pay the factoring company, and then any additional amount that was withheld as any other amount will come to you. So that remaining balance minus their fee will be paid at that time. So that's the good about factoring. What are some of the negatives? Well, some of the negatives that I have seen is that oftentimes businesses get addicted to factoring. They get into factoring and they do a lot of particular factoring. Also with factoring, it is kind of an item that what you can do is used too frequently. It is expensive. What you really want to use it for is those emergency cases to where potentially you can't get that invoice paid, your cash flow is waning, you have employees to pay, you have something else that is important to pay, to where you pay that factoring price. So as a once in a while alternative for trying to get other monies, it is a welcoming sight. It can be, but oftentimes once you get into this cycle, the cycle continues and it's hard to break the cycle. So that's a little bit about factoring. You can contact any of your SBDCs to learn more about factoring and about how to use it, particularly in a wise way. So our small business, supporting small business. Well, I know we're not going to jump in with that, but we are going to jump to our marketing moment with our marketing maven, Maureen, who is back from vacation, well rested. And so, Maureen, why don't you take it away, please?
Can you hear me? There we go. Tell me you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
All right, good. So let's get cracking here. Hang on a second. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to take what I'm going to consider a case study going forward, I think. Mossman's Catering. They're a local, actually it's Mossman's Catering, but they also have a coffee shop in downtown Bakersfield, and it's connected to Westchester Bowling Alley. Anyway, so in July, they had a fire. And so I'm going to kind of show you the arc that they took with this, and it's got a really happy ending. Anyway, they had a fire, and they had all kinds of coverage from that. They had to close. One of the good things here, and it's a 60+ year company, all the major TV stations here covered it, the Californian covered it. And then I encourage you to go look on their Facebook, because I've been checking it out today to see if they've made an announcement, and they haven't done it yet. But so Rick Mossman, who is a great guy, full disclosure, my husband Alex and I have been customers in their coffee shop on more than one occasion through the years. I must say, they do have the best fish and chips I think I've ever had. At any rate, Rick jumped on Facebook and explained to everybody, what had happened, and that, the main thing was that everybody was safe. He gave thanks, a shout out to the firefighters and everything. So that was great. So mind you, this is July 18th. Okay. So then July 19th, one of the other TV stations, it's the next thing we hear is we have this fire, but now they're working on their millionth order of fish and chips, which I love to see clients where they'll take milestones. Now, do they have to be the millionth, whatever? No, you can do it in increments, whether it's, 1 year, 5, 10, 15, something to that effect, all the way on up. But this is like the very next day where, yeah, this is what's happened, but now we're working on our millionth order. So what I did for fun, I wanted you to see. So let's see, July 18th was when they had the fire, right? So now today is October 31st. I plugged in, Mossman's, and this is what came up with. So they've had a lot of press during that time, all during this time, because first started with the fire, and then they started talking about all the things they're going to do to get to their millionth order of their fish and chips. So one of the great things is, and this requires where they would have had to, Rick and his crew would have had to have, had outreach with local media, which is another thing I encourage companies to do. I don't know how many times through my career I've heard people that they don't trust the media, and that whole, that goes along with that. A lot of times they're just looking for information for a story. This was a really good feel-good story, and Stephanie Diaz, who's a great editor and writer over in California, did this lovely package. I think it was on Sunday, on a Sunday, and the date on that was August 3rd. So it took up like the whole half of a page on in the newspaper, where here's how you can enter. They were going to give all the details of it, and there's a picture of Rick, in the cooking away. He's been doing it a long time. He started dishwashing there with his father, and I think he still uses a recipe that his father had started. So okay, then on the counter, which I love this, they had started doing the flip, where people could keep track of it. Then they took a picture and put it on their Facebook. So you build excitement over this, right? And people are starting to pay attention to it. More than likely, I have no idea, it brought more people in. So then Paul Hurtado got to be a lucky winner of a fish dinner. The closer they got to it, they started giving away smaller things. And good Lord, I got onto their Facebook today, and I will be honest, had not followed the page before. And I think they've got like 2,300 followers at this point, which is a good number for Facebook. And they do a good job. Whoever's doing their social media is doing a good job with it. But I haven't had lunch yet. I'm salivating. Kelly, I don't know, but I'm salivating over that picture of fish and chips. My gosh. So, it's just like the gift that keeps on giving here, right? So then, all right, so now we're at, what's the date on this? So the 29th of August, this is on one of the local TV stations. They had sold their millionth fish and chips. So they go on to interview Rick, and if I remember, they were trying to figure out who it is. And if I recall, the story was, I think they had like a group of 7 people who came in. And so they were trying to sort out of the 7 people, I think, who won the millionth order of fish and chips. So then it gets better. Wait, there's more, right? So then Channel 17, Bob Price has an article on there, or a story on TV where it's like, but who? So everybody wants to know who won it. I mean, yesterday on Facebook, I saw some of that on my feed. So it just keeps building. So we've gone from a fire, right, to where then, their millionth order, and it's just a really great feel-good story. And so here's where we're ending up at. Everybody wants to know. I was even checking today on social media because I thought, darn, maybe at lunchtime they would announce it, have their ceremony that they say they're going to have today. And I haven't seen anything yet. So, God, Kelly, I want to know too who their millionth winner is. They were giving away several things, like the top three. One of them was like what is it, like $1,000 gift certificate with Princess Cruises. Then there was like a $500 gift certificate for airline flight. Then there were all these fish and chip, or I know one of them was a fish and chip dinner for like 6 people. So a lot of creativity has gone into this. And I guess that's one of my points, is that we can take, if you sit down a lot of times with your customers, right, Kelly, talk to them, or even your employees, you can come up with a lot of creative ideas that could be a lot of fun and get you a lot of attention. But if you want to take a look at this, just go on to Facebook and look for Mossman's on there, and we can see who won their the millionth order of fish and chips. So there you have it.
Great. Fantastic. Makes me hungry too. Nice feel-good story. And it was the gift that kept on giving. You get past that and so forth and move on. There you go. So our CSUB SBDC YouTube, we do have a number of interesting topics from our last bunch of webinars. This will be updated soon, but you'll find a couple hundred webinars on there. Pretty much all of the 129 that we've done in this series, with the exception of 2. And also our economic corner. Well, really we were going to look into the job corner with Teresa and talk a little bit about some of the news that has come out. So let me just give you, there's Teresa. Sorry we missed you today, Teresa. Hope everything is okay. We will get some news out. We'll get maybe a on-demand copy of this or something else. But anyway, I'm going to get back into a couple of other things that we were going to talk about, that Teresa and I would talk about. So doing that, let me jump up here real quick. A couple things is the jobs report that came out, jobs opening. The jobs opening rose in July as workers continued to scoop up in a tight labor market employees. But the number of job openings nationwide dropped from 11.2 million to 10 million. So that's a drop over the previous month. One of the programs, and I don't have the visual on it right here, so I'm going to just tell you about it. One of the things on my duties and responsibilities on the Kern Annual Mono Workforce Investment and Opportunity Board is to more or less one of the best programs that I see at America's Job Center, ETR, that most small businesses do not participate in, is the on-the-job training program. So when I look at a list each quarter, I see a lot of bigger employers and maybe government users that are using this, but it is a contract employment program. You need to actually have the contract in place before the employee begins work. And what it is it's an in-trainee program. So you have a trainee that you need to fill a permanent position, has to be full-time, 32 hours a week or more. The position has to pay over $15 per hour. Generally, most of them pay much higher than $15 an hour. It can't be a job. It can't be one of your regular positions to which requires, 4 or 5 hours of training and that person is ready and willing to go. It is an on-the-job training program, an apprentice program, more or less, to where you're bringing somebody in and providing them with a lot of training and necessary to do that job. And for doing so, generally, they will pay about half of those particular wages. And that can go up to a period of about 6 months. The applicant cannot be a relative by blood, adoption, marriage, or reasonable facsimile. The trainee is to be considered a regular employee who is subject to all rules, regulations, benefits, etc. So Typically, how it would work was you contact ETR, the Employers Training Resource, a proud partner of America's Job Center of California. And what they do is they have you talk to a job developer and they find out more information on the particular job. So one thing that they will do is they will then write a contract with you on how long it's going to take, the task. Let's say, for example, I have a business called Kelly's Plumbing, and I'm in need of a new plumber. Now, nowadays, plumbers require quite a bit of on-the-job training. Some of that can go back to the actual YouTube era, where some of us novice plumbers are pretty good at, pretty much doing some small training, thanks to other people that post great videos. But the on-the-job training program, what it would do is it would allow me to actually hire this employee, get part of their wages paid for by ETR, while I train that person, maybe over a month period, maybe over a 3-month period. That is all negotiated and set into place. So the on-the-job training program, it will reimburse a percentage of the hourly wages for each hour worked. You have to maintain some records and some other things and provide ETR. The employer's training research that information. The employer must comply with the provisions of the Hatch Act, which limits political activity of employees. So the contract is determined by the skill level, the occupation. So it's really how long do you really need to train this employee is how long the contract will go for. The participant can have been employed or in a different job in that particular business, could not have been laid off from an equivalent job or some other actual way of actually kind of rehiring a former employee. So to find out more information, what you'd want to do is you'd want to contact ETR. And let me give you their phone number. Their phone number, 661-325-HIRE, and that is for their Bakersfield location. Other locations in Delano, Ridgecrest, also some affiliate sites in the KRV, and in Inyo and Mono counties as well. So the on-the-job training program was something that we were going to talk quite a bit about today. So that is something that if anybody has any questions, you can reach out and you can contact us, and we will put you in line with those particular entities. So some of the other things that are happening before I get out of here is that last week we talked probably in depth about what was going on with inflation and with the Fed governors meeting. The Fed governors were meeting in Wyoming to discuss changes, and much like our guest, Dr. Aaron Hedgay said, and I agreed with, is that the Fed is still poised to fight inflation, which means they are still looking at probably another 0.75% interest rate jump next month. So on the 21st, it would likely be 0.75%. The Fed has said it will show resolve in fighting inflation. So from the inflation side of things, we will continue to see that. We did see a very slight inching up of consumer prices in July. And, that's probably it for the inflation news. So as I mentioned, what we will try to do is we will try to get you Teresa's presentation. I'm sorry we missed her today, and we will actually do it. We can do it, either schedule her again relatively soon, or maybe just do a taped on-demand webinar and send it out to all those who registered for this event today. So getting back to what we will be doing next week. Maureen and I, thanks to you, have the opportunity to present with our special guest, Josh Feggles with Palo Alto Software, the makers of LivePlan. We will be presenting from our SBDC National Conference in San Diego. Hopefully we'll be live from the trade show floor. The trade show will be closed at those hours on Wednesday at noon, in, I'm sure, observance of Webinar Wednesday. But we hope to do that live there. We'll see how that shakes loose next week. But we're real excited. Maureen and I were asked to participate as one of the best practices, on this pandemic webinar series. And so we get to talk with several of our 2,000 participants that will be attending and let them know the great things that we have seen and learned from you, and that we have seen to try to make this a better webinar series and make this beneficial to not only our clients, our attendees, but our small business community. And that's really what we stand for, is really the entire small business community throughout Central California. So again, I do apologize for no bait and switch intended. I just hope everything is fine with Teresa. I am really concerned. But for Maureen, I'm Kelly Bearden. We'll be back next week with webinar number 130. Everybody have a great week. We'll see you then.